one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. As you can see, I'm filling in for Kurt McCullough, and for those who don't know, Kurt had a very serious heart bypass operation a couple weeks ago, and he's recuperating, and from all I hear, he's doing very well, so we wish him the best. And Larry, you pass that on if you would.
I will.
Okay, cell phones off, no texting, please. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Friday, January 8th at 9 a.m. at the Community Center, Edgewater Drive. We'll move to the consent agenda, and do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
I've got a question on minutes.
Okay.
If you read the minutes of the meeting and then look at the first action item, the minutes don't reflect the seriousness of the first item on the action agenda. Either something was omitted in the minutes or they were edited, but I would like for the minutes to be, the audio to be looked at again and have the complete discussion between Bill Jackson and his board added to the minutes of the meeting and have them approved at a later date.
Verbatim?
Pardon?
Verbatim minutes for that section?
That section of the minutes, yes. Of the meeting, right.
Okay. Any further comments? Public comments? Bring it back to the board. You vote?
Supervisor Hulbert,
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig,
What are we doing here?
We're voting to approve.
you're voting to
As amended.
approve the consent agenda, basically just the financials. The minutes will come back at the next
We're
meeting.
not voting to approve the minutes.
No.
We're voting, okay. Yes.
Supervisor White,
Yes.
President Miller,
Yes. Okay, action agenda. First up is resolution number 2015-121153. That is a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to issue a no trespass notice to the individual who was disruptive at the November 13th, 2015 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Before we get started, I wanted to say two things. David, I would like the Costy letter to be moved forward and be part of this discussion because it relates directly to that. Is that, Larry, I can't see.
Okay.
Is that possible?
I don't know why not, if there's going to be a discussion.
So
If
we
we
have
have a motion to approve.
We have a letter from Mr. Thomas Costy, resident, concerning the trespass resolution and order, so forth. So that will be included in this discussion. The second thing I want to say is that this could be emotional for a few people, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that this will be a civil discussion. No more, no less. So I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion from the board.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. If it's my turn, it's going to be my turn.
Sure.
Everybody knows Bill Jackson can get pretty emotional when he gives his presentation. Sometimes his presentations are not his bedside manner could be improved, but he understands that, I think, and so do I. We've had this discussion privately and at board meetings before. And the chair has every right to use a gavel to control the meeting. If the meeting gets out of hand, the chair has got every right to control it. And if he can't control it, then it's a serious problem. but we can't stop a resident from making comments. You know, that's why we're here. The residents have got every right to make comments. They just have to temper what they say and how they say it. But it seems like every time somebody says something and hurts somebody's feeling, that there's old documents, sometimes unrelated to the issue brought forth, and that crap's thrown against the wall in order to attack the good name and reputation of somebody. It's happened to me, and it's happened again today. And I'm not in favor of any kind of restraining order against Bill Jackson at this point.
Other comments?
I'm all for letting anybody air their ideas. I do not like some of the abusiveness that's been coming from this. It appears to me that it seems to be getting worse every month for the last 5 or 6 months, and that concerns me deeply. That's really all I have to say about it.
Thank you. Rick?
I agree with what has been said. I do not understand why these other letters have been put into this resolution. I think they were, pardon me? These other 2 letters, that are 3 letters that were put in this resolution, should have never been put in there. They were never approved in the first place, and whoever dug them out should have never dug them out because they were never approved. I believe that our residents should also understand that when the board asks them to temper theirself and sit down, and that their time is up, that they should understand that that's what they should do.
Tanya, I concur with what Rick said. How did these other trespass unsigned and unapproved letters get in? I don't understand. How were they uncovered, and who directed who to do this? It set a very bad tone on this.
The resolutions are, passing resolutions or failed resolutions are in numerical order at the district office. They're also scanned as official records. And during some research for another project I was working on, I ran across that particular resolution, which did have the letters of trespass attached as a failed resolution, and Mr. McCullough requested a copy from me.
So had President McCullough started this process for this action item?
Correct.
This resolution?
Yes.
And you gave him the attached letters because you found those, or you were looking for those, or?
No, sir, I was doing an unrelated research in the 2009 resolutions, and I ran across this particular resolution as a failed resolution.
Okay, and then, David, when you were asked to prepare that resolution, were you made aware of these others? Is that the idea?
Yes, sir. In the records that we keep at our office, all the resolutions passing or failing.
Well, I was wondering if you were using that as precedent.
When I was asked to attach
Yeah.
the letter, I was asked to attach the resolution in its entirety with all attachments.
You were? And that was from?
From Tanya through President McCullough.
Okay. Do you have more to say?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. I think everybody probably agrees that these old trespass notices shouldn't have been attached to this resolution because they were old. And is there a way that this resolution can be amended and those exhibits removed from this resolution? If so, I'd like to make a motion to remove those old.
Well, why don't we get to that after we get through the public comment, and we'll come back to you on the board? Because we're
Okay.
not doing anything till we hear from the public.
Okay. Okay.
All right, we'll hear public comment. Excuse me 1 minute. We have a first-timer. Did you want to speak on this subject? No, wait a minute. We have procedures, so just hold on for a minute. Did you want to speak to this subject?
You know, I can't hear you guys very good. Your voice is muffled, then it's too loud. Are you on the first where the guy was fired for no trespassing here? I couldn't follow the story.
Yes. All right. Go ahead, Rusty, you're up. Rusty, you're up.
Rusty Carino, resident. No trespassing. Gentlemen, I think, in looking back at that meeting, I think you're in violation of this gentleman's First Amendment if this thing goes forward. First of all, trespassing. What do we mean by trespassing? This was an open forum, and he came here and gave his thought. Sometimes when someone gives you his feelings, and God knows, I've offended a number of people, but I hope it was nothing personal, and we're able to, leave them still on friendly terms. But I think you had an open forum, and this man was expressing his feelings. And the thing is, I think you'd be depriving of him or anybody else in the manner in which he expressed himself. True, the person, Mr. Jackson, we're talking about, he is a little rough around the edges, but he communicated his thought very clearly. And my other thing is you're directing it at him only. That it kind of provoked him and put him on the edge. He can correct me later on if he wish. But I also felt that there was an overtone from the chair and some kind of sly remarks that the chair also has to govern themselves. And this is, and instead of making this a little a battle between the two and saying so. And I think this kind of inflamed the situation. But I hope in this so-called trespass that you really take a look at it, because you start getting close to violation of his First Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. Tom?
Tom Costi, resident. I'd like to echo those comments with regard to Mr. Jackson. Bill has had a long history here, and he's been involved in district politics for some time. He's run for office. He's had quite a surprisingly large following at one point in time during one of the elections. It was true that he did walk the streets of Unit 5, every bit of them, out soliciting support during his last election campaign, which I opposed quite vehemently. I supported his opponents. However, I have a problem with the district using or attempting to use the sheriff's department to enforce their ideas if they happen to disagree with a resident. That particular exchange began with the chair advising Mr. Jackson that he could rattle on some more if he wished, which is what set the stage for the escalation of emotion at that meeting. And you could see it coming from that comment on. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I was surprised to
Spend 5 minutes doing it.
well, hopefully not 5, because I'm out of time if that's the case. I would like to, preliminarily, I would like to point out that I've got an outline of what I'd like to say. If I don't get through it, I have a copy for each of you and also for the general manager. But basically, I'd like to point out that, of course, I'm concerned about the fact that 6-year-old documents were dug out of the archives and presented along with this discussion or with this resolution for no reason, at least in my mind. the courtesy was allowed back at that time that when that resolution was proposed and discussed in 2009, those documents were not made public. They were not signed, they were not approved, they were never sent, and none of the so-called recipients ever saw those documents. First time we saw them was when this resolution hit the district website on Friday. I had no idea that a letter like that had ever been written, but the connotation or the implication on the district website is, to anybody reading that, was that, yeah, those were sent, those were official letters, but they weren't. They were never approved, never signed. I noticed that just within the last couple of days, that particular resolution, which from '09, which does now appear on the district website, a handwritten note was put on there within the past few days that that was not approved. That's not the way it came out on Friday. I don't believe that comment was on that document. The document properties indicate that the document was scanned, and it was scanned on Tuesday, I believe. Is that correct? The one that's appearing now on the district website? Or was that not approved? Was that note on the? Okay, well that could be. I just wondered why the document date has been changed to a later date than when it went up. But going beyond that, at the time that altercation took place back in 2009, there was an awful lot had gone on leading up to that, and an awful lot resulted from that particular day in this community center. And I'm just going to run through very briefly, very brief comment about the things that had happened. There had been numerous legal actions instigated here in the district between one faction and another, whether it was the Board of Supervisors versus the Property Owners Association, or vice versa, Property Owners Association versus the Board of Supervisors. Candidates who had been defeated initiating action against the candidate that had won an election. This Board of Supervisors initiated legal action against the county commissioners. And this all resulted from, initially it was from a challenge that had been made against NRPI, who had been indicated that they were going to be allowed to pay their assessments on lots only after they sold them. They had purchased 6,000 lots, and the initial agreement was that they would not have to pay assessments on them until they were sold. Action was initiated against them on that. There was also a citizen who had gone to the county numerous times to request that an internal audit be done on this district, and the county commissioners supported that. And they actually selected one of their members to attempt to come out here and mediate with the Board of Supervisors. He made numerous attempts to make contact with the board, and to no avail. He never got a response. The Board of Supervisors did eventually say that they objected to performing the internal audit on the district, and it all had to do with the NRPI coming in here, unless the county paid for it. Then along came a landowner election in 2009, where votes were cast by NRPI on lots that they had not paid assessments on. However, somebody had bought the tax certificates on those lots. So the court was appealed to declare those lots not current in their assessments. So because they had not paid their assessments, the system had paid their assessments through the sale of tax certificates. That was winding its way through the court system. There was another request to the circuit court that the candidate who had been elected, who won that 2009 landowner election by virtue of those tax certificate paid lots, which at the time we were voting lots in terms of one vote per lot, there was an action initiated to declare those not to seat that candidate until after this whole investigation on the issue had completed. There was also a request for a court determination to determine whether or not the district was supposed to be operating under Florida Statute Chapter 125, which was in place when the district was formed, or whether it is Florida Statute 189. The two systems had different methods of counting landowner votes. That was an issue that was being discussed. There was another appeal made to determine whether the landowners' elections should be counted on the basis of 1 vote per acre, which is the chapter of 189. I'm getting the signal that I've reached my limit.
You're getting there.
But I have a outline that I would like to be made part of the minutes, so that anybody who does happen to get into this through accessing records down the road would have the ability to see these other issues that were going on that surrounded that contentious meeting that took place in April '09.
David, there's no problem with that, is there?
No, sir.
We'll see that's done, Tom.
My name's Aaron Seward. I live on, that's spelled Aaron, Seward. I live on 4611 Calatrava. And this is my first meeting. I'm speaking about action agenda A. I wasn't here, this is my first meeting, so I wasn't here about this guy, but it kind of really bothers me when it says, and maybe somebody set the record straight, says a resolution put forward that, for no trespass against an individual who was disruptive of the meeting on November 13th. It don't say that he's banned for 2 meetings or 3 meetings. And I know homeowner association, I think everybody ought to be outraged, because it might be you next. A lot of times when you speak up to homeowner association, the board don't agree, they can ban you. Now this guy might have been passionate about the issue, I wasn't here, so I cannot speak to that. But I think it's very dangerous to bar somebody or give them a no trespass and to come here to a meeting. Matter of fact, it might be illegal, you can ask the attorney about that. So I suggest that you tie a time. You can't come to 2 meetings, and I mean, you know, people can be the judge that we're here, and from now on out, if you're gonna bar somebody forever, that's a pretty dangerous situation. And I think everybody ought to be outraged, because they could be the next one barred. And so it really made me a little ball in my stomach when I seen that, and I don't know this guy or nothing about it, but just saying he's no trespass because he was disruptive, well, it's the board's opinion when he's disrupting. I mean, you have your own opinions, you're not entitled to your own facts, and I don't know the facts of this, so I cannot speak to it. But I think we ought to reset that, he's barred for 2 months meetings or whatever. And thank you for my chance to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Larry Bertetto. I agree with a lot of the things that were said, as such Mr.
Hard to
Costi.
hear you, Larry. You can speak up, please.
Sure. With what Mr. Costi was saying, is when I look around the room, and that happened in 2009, probably there were only a couple people that were at that meeting when that letter was written. I find it sort of amazing how all of a sudden disappears when none of the staff was here at that time. 3 of the board members weren't here at that time. And only a couple of us here in this room today were here at that time. So I just think that there's something happened there that I don't think we're getting the truth on. And that's my opinion. Now, as I look too, and I say that Mr. Jackson is vocal, and as though some of you can probably attest to the fact that over the 15 years that I've been here, I've been fairly vocal about things. And what prompts it? It's inaction by the board. It's by the board not listening to people. And until the board sits and starts listening to people and starts taking the entire community and listening to the entire community, not just a special segment of the community. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. You've had your chance. Anybody else?
My name is Bill Jackson. I'm a resident of this community. And I guess I should say something at the end of this. I've been involved in the Sun and Lakes probably for 10 or 15 years. I even started a blog, because we were dealing at that time with a situation where we had no control over the district, because they were letting all these NRPI vote those things. So, like, I could go out and get votes, and all of a sudden NRPI would come in and change it.
Bill, what you're saying is there was no resident control at that time, that the large landowners were in control, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of the people on the board were supportive of it. So during that time, a lot of people were unhappy with my blog, what I had to say. And I have been angry when people dismiss me. They don't have to like what I say. They don't have to agree with me. But when they act dismissive, then I find that offensive. But if I offended anyone in here, I certainly want to apologize. But at no time did I feel that I was a threat to this board or anything. I just said a few things, and I had directed some of those comments to Mr. McAuliffe. And you heard what he told me. One of the people spoke up about that. I don't think that's right. Anyone who comes up here should be able to say what's on their mind and not have someone on the board not pay attention and ignore them, sit sideways and ignore them like they're not there. I said that from the very beginning. And I've only been back here for 2 or 3 months, I believe. After the last election, we got a board that was in good shape. I still think they run the business well, until recently. And I was very happy with the way things were being run here. I didn't come back for years. And because I had no need to. But I've come back this time, and I thought I was helping the district. And if I've offended anyone, I certainly apologize. And I will make every effort to hopefully control that and not do it again. What we can go outside and argue back and forth if we want to. But I just want to apologize for that, and we'll see how it all works out. I can't guarantee things because I am sort of a crotchety guy. But I certainly do apologize if I offended anyone on the board or offended anyone in the audience. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. David, there's 2 things. Are you going to speak?
Good morning, Gene Gann, Jemmy resident. You know, when I saw this on the website, the resolution that we're speaking about, it came to mind that it seems that when board members are offended, the first thing they do is, let's go and get a resolution. A couple questions that I have is, number one was already answered, was President McCullough to ask for this resolution. Am I correct on that? Okay. And number 2 is that our attorney is looking out for our welfare. Now, when a motion like this would come to anyone that has any type of legal background would say, you're kind of close to preventing people from speaking their mind, which is kind of like against the First Amendment. And why didn't the attorney say, you guys ought to back off on this because you're kind of on gray area? And the third thing is that how much did this work effort go into this resolution as far as a price? Was it 1 hour's worth of time, 3 hours worth of time? Can anybody answer that to me?
Only the attorney.
Mr. Schumacher, could you tell me how much time was spent on this one item?
That specific resolution, I'd have to check my time records, but I'm sure it was less than an hour.
All this was done in an hour. Did you confer with the general manager and say, you know, this could be a problem?
As far as the letter itself?
As far as
The
issuing a resolution to no trespass situation to a resident?
I didn't think it was an issue because it had been done before.
Well, like I said, it seems that when, some individuals turn around and have a problem, they run to the board, let's do a resolution. We have an individual that's caught at night, and let's get a resolution, we have to change the lights and signals on our cars. So I'm just concerned, and I have people come up to me and say, hey, I went down, I paid my assessments, so we can pay for lawsuits that are gonna happen. And I just feel bad about it, I really do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Rusty, you don't have to wait till public comment. I'm sorry. We had one go. No. No. No, sir. No, sir, please.
No,
No, sir.
no, sir, wrong.
You've had,
Go to the Robert's Rules of Order here for the meeting, I just want to ask that question, because if you speak on a subject, and after everybody spoke, you get a chance to speak the second time. Well, I want.
no, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Is that correct? We have, just, would you please wait a minute? Is that correct?
According to Robert's Rules of Order?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then come
Everyone
on
has
up.
2 chances.
You won your point. Rusty, yes, you get your chance. Is that, by the way, I hope that's just twice.
That's correct.
Thank you. No, I was talking to our,
Okay. Yeah, I just wondered, not all due respect, I just wondered if you knew the Robert's Rules of Order, if you went by that.
we operate by that, but we also have rules which you have to pay attention to
I
as
will,
well.
but the last guy spoke and you told him, so I wanted to remind you when you said I couldn't speak,
All
okay?
right, all right.
Nick,
I'm thoroughly chastised.
I don't know if this is timed, I'm not sure how you run the meetings, it's time to put a motion on the floor. I'd like to make a motion to, you put like 2 months on there for the guy not to come back, and pull that, no trespass, nor letting him come back to the meetings. I'd
Okay.
like to put that motion on the floor and take a vote and see what they say. I think the members ought to have some say in that, I mean, they're all involved, and I've heard quite a bit of opposition. I don't know what happened that month, but that don't mean y'all are barring for life. And again, I think you're,
Well, we're going to address that,
It's
but
pretty
that's not the way it works. The vote will be taken here at the board.
but they can vote here to, on the motion, can't they? You
No,
take the
no,
motion?
no, sir.
Okay.
Is there anything?
How do we do that then? If you want to put a motion on the floor to let the members vote on it, how do you do that?
It's not the way this meeting is run,
Which way do you do it?
because we're meeting on, or discussing this resolution now. We're going to vote on that. It's a board decision. We have public comment, and that's it. You don't have a town hall meeting, so.
Well, I'm not just sure. Okay, then you're evaluating this and reevaluating it, you're saying?
We certainly are.
Oh,
We're in the
okay,
middle of
okay.
discussion. We're not done with that by any means. Phew.
I got a question, Rusty Carino, I'm directing it at the attorney. Give me the definition of no trespassing.
What's the definition of no
Yes.
trespass? Well, it depends. And if you read the letter that was subject, or that is part of the resolution that's up for approval, it details the level of no trespasses,
What is the legal term? Not what the thing there, what is the legal definition?
of trespassing?
Yes.
Being someplace where you're not allowed to be.
Being someplace where you're not allowed to be.
Correct.
Being here in an open forum, we're not, he's paying taxes and so forth, we're paying taxes, and we say something derogatory, we're trespassing?
Being no trespass means that you being instructed that you cannot act in a certain manner or be in a certain
In a
place.
certain manner, or being in a certain place?
It is a certain place as well.
Rusty, let me ask that in a different way, because I have the same question that you have. David,
Yes, sir.
can we legally bar anybody from a public meeting?
You can take steps necessary to maintain order.
Well,
And
that's
if it-
not what I asked. Can
Okay.
we legally bar anybody from a meeting?
No.
That depends. Legally, it depends on their conduct. If someone commits a criminal act, then absolutely, you could trespass that person from being here.
But if a person gets a little loud at the meeting, that wouldn't apply, would it?
Well, it depends. It depends on whether or not if the board has the power, absolutely. This is district property. The board absolutely has the power to no trespass someone from entering this building. If that person does not like that, they can take it up with the courts. And if they can show, if a court says, no, you're not allowed to do that, then the court could overrule that. But that is not at all what has been suggested by this resolution. It's apparent to me, and I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone, but the majority of people that have spoken to this issue have not read the no trespass letter that was drafted.
Well, you might want to define the basic intent then of that resolution.
The letter states, and without having a copy of it right here in front of me, that the person, yeah, I got it. The person may not attend a meeting, may not be at the community center 1/2 hour before or 1/2 hour after any meeting of the Board of Supervisors, unless you provide written notice to the board no less than 24 hours prior to any meeting of your intention to attend. You agree to sit in a room separate from the board where audio of the meeting is provided. Should you desire to make public comment to the board, you shall, 1, provide written notice to the board secretary no less than 24 hours prior to the meeting of your intent to make public comment and the time and the items on the agenda for which you intend to make comment. Number 2, approach the podium to make public comment only if accompanied by a Highlands County Sheriff's officer. And 3, abide by all time limits set by the board for making public comment. If you fail to do those things, if you fail to comply with the requirements set forth above, any entry upon said lands during the period specified will be considered a trespass. So basically what the letter says, if you show up and don't behave as you've been instructed to behave, then you will be removed. But you are entitled to make your comments, you're entitled to listen to the meeting, you're entitled to participate in the meeting. But if you don't behave, you'll be removed.
You know, this is not what this resolution is all about, and so forth, and that's not what it's, as a person, a lay person picks this thing up and reads this as per se, to me, it seems like it's a violation of my First Amendment, of restricting my freedom to speak. Now, my question is to you is, since when this resolution supersedes my First Amendment right?
It doesn't.
Thank you.
Larry Stange, President of the Property Owners Association. Number 1, the way I read the rules, you will follow state law to start with. That's number 1. You don't make your own laws. You will follow state laws. And I suggest you better read the agenda for a special district and what state law says about a special district. Thank you.
Good morning. Rex Bond. I'm a resident of the district. I've lived in this county since 1962. I regret to say this resolution is one of the most ridiculous resolutions that I've ever seen in a public meeting. If we are in so much danger that we have to have the police to escort people up to this stand to speak, makes me a little nervous. I saw in the paper this morning where 2 sheriffs in this state said, carry a gun. Carry a gun because that gives you at least some chance against a guy that has a gun. 2 sheriffs said that. That's encouraging to crooks and other situations. But I've been to meetings where they have asked people to leave, and if they didn't, they had the sheriff to remove them if it was necessary. Maybe 1 meeting in that 60 years that I've been here. So I believe this board can control your meetings. I believe that there's no one that comes and speaks to this group that has an idea of doing something wrong. If they feel that way, fine. That's how you get information from the public to help you make the decision that affects their livelihood. Don't pass this resolution. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just so everybody is clear on this subject, 1 member of this board brought this resolution to the agenda. So we're discussing at this time the resolution prepared by one member. I'll go for that. Now, David, Ms. Supervisor Hallbeck asked you if we are able to, I guess, take away these papers.
I'd like to have the resolution amended and omit Exhibit B and put them back where they belong, into the old resolution where they were dug out.
Well, I mean, that can be done, but this resolution is a public record. It's been created.
With that exhibit?
It's an attachment to the resolution.
This resolution you can't remove, we can't amend this resolution?
We
and
absolutely can, but that would be an
those-
amended resolution. The original resolution would still be public record, as the 2009 resolution is public record.
Well, you just heard the damage that's been done by including 3 letters that were never executed and should not be part of the record, and one person in particular feels that his reputation, his public reputation, has been damaged by this. And what we're trying to do is correct that, and you're saying we can't.
I'm not saying that you can't. We could, if you want to remove it from the website, I think that's a possibility, but nothing can change the fact that this is a public record.
Well, then I would suggest in the future, when we prepare resolutions of this type, we be damn sure that we're doing it correctly.
And just to make note, it's my understanding that it's been stated that the original 2009 resolution, these letters were not attached.
Well, they had to be attached because they came out as part of that research effort.
Exactly. These letters have always been part of the public record since they were drafted.
Well, none of us, I didn't know that, and I don't know, did anybody else here know that?
No.
No.
So we got that for the first time this week as well.
I was on the Board of Supervisors, and that's first time I saw them is when I saw them attached to this thing.
So
we're having a sunshine law training session at the end of this meeting, and we will talk about public records.
Good.
Maybe we ought to make that the focal point. Okay, bring it back to the board. Tom, we just passed public comment. Please. I think we've said everything in that you wanted to hear. So, can we proceed, please? All right. Further comment by the board.
None from me.
So we're voting on the resolution as originally stated and prepared. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, David, we cannot have those, do those 3...
If you want to amend the resolution to remove Exhibit B, absolutely you can do that.
All right, go ahead. Do I have a motion for that?
Make a motion to remove Exhibit B's from the resolution.
Do I have a second? I'll second it.
Okay.
Do we vote on the amendment?
You have to do board discussion and public comment again.
All right, board discussion.
None from here.
Will that take it completely out of the archives then of the, as I understood you a minute ago, it still stays with it, even though it's been removed?
It will the original resolution has been created and it will be a public record.
All right, public discussion. Tom?
I would just like to say that I fully understand the fact that this will perpetually be in the public record. However, I do request that the resolution be amended before it's voted upon, and that therefore the record of resolutions would not include this Exhibit B. However, it would be a part of the public record, and that's all I'm really asking is...
Well, I think we're at that point now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're voting, David, on...
You're voting on the amendment to remove Exhibit B.
Okay, and
After you-
then we go back to the original resolution.
Then you'll go back to the motion as amended and vote on that too.
Okay, so a yes vote would remove those exhibits, right?
Correct.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Supervisor Halbig?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
Yes.
Supervisor Hurlbert,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes. Now we have a vote on the resolution for the trespass, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And this one is a yes vote means yes, we're going to issue the letter. A no vote means no, we're not going to issue.
All right, very good. You want to call the roll, please?
Supervisor White,
No.
Supervisor Hurlbert,
No.
Supervisor Halbig,
No.
President Miller.
No.
And
Okay.
we'll make sure that the amended resolution is the one that's available on the district website.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad we're through that. Okay, next item on the agenda is resolution number 2015-12/1154, resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to award the bid on the True Turf Green Roller, RFP 1511 to Show Turf, I guess it is. So, David, are you point man for that?
Sure, yeah. This is part of the equipment that was approved in this year's budget. It was all discussed during the budget meetings. This particular piece of equipment was not available on the state contract purchasing sheet, and it did exceed the $10,000 purchasing policy limit, so we did put it out to bid. There is only one vendor in the state that does carry this piece of equipment, so there was only got one response, and that's pretty much it.
Nothing unusual price or anything else that nature? Okay, I need a motion to approve
Motion to
this.
approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we have any board discussion
Yes.
on this?
David, it looks to me like that the whole budget was $198,500.
Correct.
Looks like you come in with the whole group of it at 187,000, or that's rounded off a little bit, so you're still 11,500 under the original budget.
Correct. We, the total package, this resolution along with the following one, does come in under budget approximately, I think, 5%. So, yes.
Okay.
Rick, anybody else on the board? Public comment?
Bill Jackson, President. I'm not objecting to the purchase of this, but this document is what most of the people in here see when they come in. It's handed to them, they can pick it up off the table. What I'd like to see put in here, if you're going to purchase something, is the price. Just put it in here, and then we'll all know what kind of money we're spending. And I think that would be informative to the people here who don't go in and look at the whole resolution, and it would give them some idea of the amount of money that's being spent.
You don't think then posting on the website is enough?
There's people who don't even know what a website is, and I don't think we need to limit their access to information. This is the document that we have on that table over there. People will come in here, look at this, and all I'm asking is that the purchase price that they've agreed to be put in this, and then everyone can know what kind of money we're spending.
Well, that's fair enough, but you do that out of context, there won't be any reference to what that price is, other than it's a roller. which-
Well, True Turf Green Roller, but I think people understand the cost of things. And you would put on there, in parentheses, bid cost, and you just put it in there. And if they want more information, they can look at that, and at the meeting, stand up and ask, would you please explain this?
Well, we can do, I don't know, what's the board think? Get any reaction to that?
You're not asking for page after page that we get. It's just a consolidated,
I just want I want the price put in there. You just put it in parentheses, and right next to this reference to it, and then just put the price in there. Bid price is this. Or if, it's all I'm asking for is the price to be put in.
Okay.
And if they have questions, they can stand up and ask, what are we getting for that? I think that would be very informative to the people who live here.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Bring it back to the board. Board comment? Allison?
Supervisor Hurlbert,
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig,
Yes.
Supervisor White,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes. Okay, next item is resolution number 2015-121155, a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve the purchase of golf maintenance equipment. And this is an approved budget item.
Correct. This is the remaining pieces of equipment. All of these pieces of equipment were available on the state contract pricing sheet.
You might give a little history of why we go to, because it's been quite a while that we're in the process. You might give a little history of why we go to the state contracting process.
The state will put out a bid for all of their pieces of equipment to keep municipalities from having to do the bid process. And it's usually good for a few years. And also all of these pieces of equipment are already listed on that state contract sheet, so they've already gone through the bid process.
And we save money.
Yes, it's generally at a discounted rate off of MSRP.
Okay, and as Supervisor White said, we're, with these items in that roller, we're 11,000 under budget.
Correct. And then with Billy Casper, we also go to all the vendors, and because Billy Casper negotiates national pricing with the majority of these vendors, so we also get pricing through Billy Casper pricing, and if any of those prices are lower than state contract, then we go with that.
Okay, so that's been a thorough process.
Correct.
Right.
I got a question. It says,
Did I ask for a let's have a motion to approve?
Also make that motion.
second?
Okay, now we're set.
All right. This looks odd. Why does a head rough mower with 72 inches of cutting area cost more than one with 104 inches? Just strange. This looks strange. It's got to have a bigger deck on it. The Hustler Super Z 104, maybe that's 100. Maybe that's just a model number, and not a cut.
That's because
width.
that's the 72-inch deck mower. That's 2 units.
It's 2 units.
That's 2 mowers. That price is for 2 mowers. The $22,000.
There's a column there for units, and it's got a number 2 in it,
Oh,
so that's
okay.
for
I
2
got you.
pieces.
So
Yes,
it'd
sir.
roughly be
Okay.
11.5 apiece.
It's right there in front of me. I missed it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other board comment?
But if you look at the line above it, the 60-inch is cheaper than is more expensive than the 272s.
Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense. Well, that's one more.
That's
Yes.
one more, yeah.
All right. Public comment. Bring it back to the board. Final thoughts? Allison?
Supervisor Halbig,
Yes.
Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Hurlbert,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution number 2015-121156, resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to award the bid on the restaurant refrigerator, and it's RFP 1510 to Douglas Equipment, and our new golf general manager is going to speak to that. Jim?
Thank you, President Miller. At this
Not
time-
yet, Vice President, but Ed, you want to identify yourself for the record, please, Jim?
For the record, Jim Kurtzborn, General Manager of the Sun and Lake Golf Club, Billy Casper Golf. At this time, I'd like to recommend tabling the resolution for the additional refrigerator for the kitchen until after the season. The refrigerator is still needed, but the location that it would occupy would displace supplies that are critical to our operation during the season. We will still contact the vendor to make sure the purchase is available in the future.
Come summer, won't you have the same space problem?
No, there should be some different things that will happen. One, there's going to be a building that'll be constructed to the south of the tennis courts that's going to enable us to have a little bit more storage. And also, we're just right on the season. It's very busy now, and there's just a concern that to interrupt our normal operation and to move some critical supplies might affect
Yeah,
our
well, that makes
service levels.
sense. David, can we, how does that work? Can we table that, or do we have to
Yes,
rebid it?
I reviewed the RFP, and I did not find any language that stated how long the bid amounts had to be good, those prices had to be good for. So we're going to contact the vendors that bid on the project and get numbers as far as how long that price will be valid. And if it's within the time frame, then we'll keep it open and make a decision when we're ready to buy the equipment. And if it's not good, then
We rebid it.
we'll rebid it, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
According to the new purchasing procedure, though, this would not have to go out for a
Rebid.
That is true.
bid. So I guess the timeline's a really important thing, I guess, of how long the bid's going to hold up and so on and so forth, so.
That's kind of unusual. Don't most of our vendors put a limitation on?
Yeah, and generally, there's stuff in the RFP as well. I don't know if it just because this was a piece of equipment as opposed to an actual construction bid that would require, labor and
We're
equipment.
talking about $14,000, so we'll see.
Well,
I
we need a
too-
motion to table?
Yeah.
You need to have a main motion on the floor to approve the resolution, and then you'll move to table that motion.
Well, we never.
I thought we had a motion to
No, we didn't have a
approve.
motion.
There was
to
never a
approve
motion
yet.
out
Well,
there.
kick me when we don't, will you?
Well, I was going to, but I had a conversation with him yesterday. I knew he was going to ask for this to be tabled. I thought we could just table it without making a motion to open.
You can't table a motion that's not there.
Okay, make a motion to approve.
Second. Somebody?
I will second that. I thought you did.
Okay, now,
Now
are
you'll
we
move
having
to lay the
discussion?
motion. Yeah, you'd open it up for discussion, and it with no discussion,
We've
then
had
move to table the
our
motion.
discussion. I'll ask the public again, I guess, for no discussion there. Back to the board.
Move to
Motion.
table.
Second.
Okay, there's a discussion on that. Public discussion.
That's not a debate.
Back to the board. Allison?
Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Hulbert,
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes, yes. Okay. Jim, one question before you go. This is a little bit out of order, but that monthly report you guys are giving is pretty tedious to go through, and there's no summary sheet on that at all. And I'd like to see a simple cover sheet that shows where we are in the restaurant and where we are in the golf on a monthly basis, and then if anybody has any questions, then we can go inside.
Yes, I'll include that on future reports.
Okay.
Jim, would you also send that to our district emails, so it's a lot easier to read on the computer at home?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Resolution number 2015-121157, resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve the revision of the district purchasing policies and procedures. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Tanya, do you want to
Yes.
fill us in on that?
At the last meeting, the drafted purchasing policy resolution was discussed. Revisions from the first draft are highlighted in yellow for recommended additions, and the second, and the other items Our strike-throughs are recommended deletions from the first meeting. So we incorporated several of your, recommendations for changes and have included in this document. The first one is purchases more than $10,000 will require board approval. We've added that into the policy. Second, I've added a statement for purchases under $500 do not require purchase orders. This statement has always been the policy, but it was left out of the first draft. I saw that as I reviewed the draft. The third item is changing the written quote. The last three items were the same provided to you as before. I just wanted to emphasize the last three items again, that it is part of the policy. So do you want to go over the page by page or just review the items in yellow?
Not really, but
Okay.
again, I have a problem with the ceiling on that. I also have a problem that we do that to be consistent with the county. I think we have to do it to be what's the best thing for Sun and Lake in this instance. So I'll say my piece again on that. The question I have is, we're going to have a new administrative services coordinator, is that correct?
That's correct.
There's no role for that person. That person's doing purchasing, right?
Yes.
And there's no role for that person in this policy. You've indicated the general manager, department heads, and so forth, but you have not included the administrative services role.
That person will be under finance. I know finance director as the sole responsibility for approvals, but the administrative services coordinator will act as a purchasing agent.
Well, shouldn't there be some formal recognition of that role in this policy?
It can be. I mean, right now, the way it's written, though, finance director is the supervisor over the administrative services.
I know you want to get it approved, but board members, what do you think?
As long as the finance as long as the finance person is in charge of it and he's over, or she is over the sub person, I don't have a problem with it, I don't think. The way it's worded.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
I do have a comment on.
Yeah, okay.
It kind of ties in with what you were saying about the threshold for purchases.
Okay.
Just so there's no confusion later on, could we add, even if budget, number one, purchases more than $10,000 will require board approval. When we do the budget, we approve certain items in the budget. That could be considered board approval later down the road. I would like to have in this policy, even if budgeted. And on page 3, and it kind of ties in with what Supervisor Miller was worried about, purchases $10,000 or more required board approval unless specifically exempt herein. Budgeted items do not exempt does not exempt board approval. In other words, if it's over $10,000 or more, it has to come back to the board to approve when that item is
Correct, yes.
purchased. I don't want to get in an argument later when they said, well, it was budgeted, so we don't need to get approval. So what's everybody's thoughts on that? What we're trying to do is, we're raising the threshold to $25,000 on a...
Yeah, it still should be approved.
At that time.
Yeah, there has to be some control.
Yeah. I mean, just because it was budgeted doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be approved.
Yeah, I know, but that's happened in the past, if you
Right.
recall some
Right.
recent things.
And the other thing is that we don't need to have somebody say, well, it was $8,000 for this and $4,000 for that. So
You can't bundle.
we can't bundle.
I think that's in there someplace.
Well, that would be my question. Is there anything that needs to be changed or added?
It's stated in the policy. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, anything else from the board? We have public comment.
Rusty Carino resident. I have a question. What is the job description of this person that you just announced a little bit earlier? What is that person's responsibility? What's
You're
their
talking
job
about the
description?
Administrative Services
Yes.
Director? Okay. Tanya?
We haven't hired this position yet, but this person is going to be responsible as a purchasing agent, liability insurance,
All right,
workers'
let's
comp
stop right there,
insurance.
purchasing agent, and what are they going to be responsible for? Exactly.
Rusty, I haven't hired this position yet, so my job responsibilities would also include bid. She's going to be responsible for the bid administration, be responsible for project administration as well, and that's going to be a big.
And they also should be, in charge of the funding, like Mr. Albee alluded to, because sometimes you have budgeted items that this is one thing that got me a little bit nervous when I asked you before about the purchasing, who's in charge of purchasing, and you said you spread it out to the different departments. And what bothered me is, what I was concerned about was the fact that if it's farmed out and they don't know what the board passed as far as how much dollars are allocated, there we can run into some confusion, as it has been alluded to in the past.
That's why we need a purchasing agent.
So I
Yes,
think
sir.
part of their
That's
responsibility
exactly.
should be to carry out the board's wishes as far as the dollar amount budget and to oversee every area to make sure that we're within the budget amount and the funding, where it's coming out of, which funds it's coming out of. So we don't have any of this confusion in the future. Okay, thank you.
Tom Costi, if I'm not mistaken, going back a couple of years, our purchasing policy did state that all purchases would be the responsibility of the purchasing agent, and that has been removed. We've made reference in this discussion over the past several times when we've discussed the purchasing policy. We've made reference to the county's purchasing policy and indicated that we need to stay consistent with what they do. The county purchasing policy includes a bid process, and it also includes getting competitive quotes. The quoting stage comes into play at below the threshold. Simply because you're below the $10,000 or $25,000 bid threshold doesn't mean that relieve the requisitioner from getting competitive quotes and justifying going to other than the low quoted. In other words, going to buy a new mower for $7,000, you're not allowed to just get that mower by virtue of one price having been obtained from a supplier. The requisitioner has to note the different prices that he has attempted to get the best price possible, and he justifies going forward with that purchase. So I don't, just as I read ours, I don't see a differentiation between the required competitive quoting in place below the threshold of the bid process. There's two different things.
Tom, in item 2, in section C, item 2 is for any purchase $5,000 to $25,000, 3 written quotations shall be sought by the department before any order is issued.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Thank you.
Well, there's another item involved there, too. There's a difference between vendors and consultants, and a big difference, and a whole different selection process applies. Now, you referenced the architect, engineer section there you're going to abide by, and the vendors. But one of the problems that I think we've had in the past is we don't prepare good contracts and good consultant agreements. And I'd like to find some sort of a way that we can make a checklist on both accounts, that we have all the items. For example, on consulting, you've got the main product involved, main objective. You've got your periodic reporting. You've got the requirements for the report and what they're doing. You have the withdrawal and so forth. And you reference this overall thing, but I think somehow we should have a checklist to make sure that our contracts are tight And I go back to the tennis court. It's still rubbing me raw on that. We had a clause in there about due diligence, and we never enforced it, and that just still burns me. So what do we have in place, Tanya, on both sides of that, vendors and vendor contractors and consultants? Do we have a firm, detailed checklist that this contract is prepared for this vendor and so forth?
We do not have a checklist, but we have worked with David Shoemaker over the last couple months to develop a standard contract.
Well, it goes beyond a standard contract.
It does, but we don't have a checklist at this time, but that's something we can work towards.
Well, I think we need to work on that. And should we reference that in the policy purchasing document, or just do that?
We'll need to develop it first and then implement it. So that's something that we can do is for the new administrative services coordinator.
Okay, I interrupted public comment, but I wanted to build on what Rusty says. Is there any other public comment?
Bill Jackson? Yeah, now I'm deaf. I know in the past, we've had what I'll call slick people on this $10,000 limit. Would break it down into 2 purchases, and it would exceed the $10,000 limit. And they seem to get away with that. I have not read this new purchasing thing. Have we addressed that so people cannot take a one thing and break it down into 2 purchases and it exceeds the $10,000 limit?
I just said that.
Oh, that's what we were talking about.
Huh?
That was what we were addressing prior
Well,
to that.
I know, but I didn't read it, so I didn't understand. Is that been addressed?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay. Bring it back to the board. So we are, no comment, we are voting on as it's currently stands. Okay, Allison?
Supervisor Hurlburt,
Yes.
Supervisor Haubig,
Yes.
Supervisor White,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes. Okay, last item on the action agenda is a discussion of the one-year free golf membership. And Jim Kurtzborn, you're going to lead that.
Jim Kurtzborn, General Manager, Sun and Lake Golf Club, Billy Casper Golf. We've got a draft proposal of a 2016 Sun and Lake Home Buyers Membership Program. I'd like to start out by recommending a few changes to the draft. I'd like to add to the first bullet that the program should run from January 1, 2016 to December 31, 2016, just to clarify the time period of the program.
You say January to November?
January 1, 2016 to December 31, 2016.
Oh, December, okay.
And then I would also like to strike the second last bullet because it is confusing and it doesn't add clarity to the document. And that bullet starts out, if someone buys a parcel of land. Because the parcel of land isn't what we're dealing with. We're trying to get home buyers to come to Sun and Lake.
What bullet you on, Jim?
Second from the last, right?
Second, so that would be the
Oh, okay.
the sixth bullet.
Okay. Omit that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That whole statement?
Yes, sir.
What was the dates on the first bullet? January 1st, 2016?
Yes, sir, to December 31st of 2016. So basically the calendar year of 2016.
And if we want to, okay,
And then we
If we
can
wanna
revisit
extend
it
it,
to
we
extend
bring
it
it
if
back.
it's successful.
okay.
Just so we're clear, you've got these dates. I mean, you got a homeowner that that comes in and builds and resides, starts his residence in July, a one-year membership that still applies to July of the following year?
Yes, well, the membership would be activated with the purchase and the turn-on of water. So if they entered their house July 1st of 2016, they'd have a membership through June 30th, 2017.
Okay, so why are we doing the January to December? Is that just?
That's just for clarity. It's just adding to the clarity of the document of the time period of the program.
Okay, so if we want to continue that program, we would have to renew that program in December.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Hopefully this item on the top memo, item 1 and 2 is not part of this then.
No, sir, the memo isn't
Okay.
part of the draft.
Okay, good.
Okay, Larry, any thoughts?
No.
Rick? David, I guess my question to you is, how is this formally implemented if the board agrees to the draft and conditions?
We'd draft up some sort of contract or something that they'd execute, because I guess, it's potentially not everybody that's going to be building a house, may want it. So, and we don't want to give something to somebody they don't want or they're not going to use. So whenever we'll just draft up a contract, so when they have their water turned on at their new residence, they can choose at that time whether or not they want to activate the free membership.
Every builder then would be apprised of this particular, and I assume the real estate agents would too.
Yeah, and like I say, we'll draft it so that it doesn't apply to developers. It'd have to be someone that's.
Okay, well, the question there in the overview is about assessments being paid. We have a situation right now, don't we, Tanya, that we have a builder, Raymond Horning, that's starting some substantial building in Magnolia Place, and he's got something like 43 properties here, and some of which are delinquent on assessments. Is that correct?
Some are delinquent, yes, but I don't have those numbers today.
Well,
That's what I asked him, if 1 and 2. I hope we wouldn't have a discussion about this, because, we've been crossways on this before, and
it's something that needs to be brought to
Raymond Hornick's done more to develop this district than any developer there is. I mean, this guy, when he did his first 2 sections over there on his own nickel, put in his own roads, his own drainage, his own sewers, everything. He didn't ask for 1 nickel from the district, and he's doing the same thing again. I mean, this is the guy that's developing. He's got 48 units going up over there and several other homes, and you're gonna give this opportunity to somebody that's going to come in there and build 1 home that is maybe a competitor, a major builder in a competitive market, but you're not going to allow the guy that's building multiple homes the opportunity to pass that along to a new homeowner. It's ridiculous.
David, I didn't say that. I said it's an issue that we have to address, and perhaps the way to address that is if there are lots under development, those assessments have to be current. In other words, if he's current in Magnolia Place, no problem.
Well, that's the way of doing it. I'm sure he's not going to build a home if he's in arrear on any assessment on a piece of property.
Well, we got to be careful, because it's not just Raymond. It applies to. We assume that we have more development now we've had in a long time. So I'm concerned that as an overall policy. So
as I understand this, excuse me, Rick. As I understand this is not going to apply to anybody until they close on the house. So if Raymond builds a house, and if he's in arrears, whatever, at closing, the buyer would have to bring everything up to date. And the buyer is the one that receives this. Raymond Hornick does not receive any of this at all.
he'd only have the ability to say,
Right,
this is,
to
this
say
is,
this
this
is
is, this is an
available.
opportunity for
This
you.
is available, that's all he can tell them.
But I think that before that can be passed on, that the builder has to be up to date on his assessment
Okay, fair enough.
On that particular property.
on that particular property.
Okay, that's what we're,
Yeah, Dave, I don't disagree with you. I think Raymond Hornick has done quite a job. He's the first one that came back and bought substantial property in Sun and Lake, and he's investing a lot of money in Sun and Lake, and cut him any slack that we can. So as long as we have that understanding, then I'm okay with that. So, what, David? So how do we put this into official, we have the dangling resolution again?
Well, yeah, what we'll do is if you want us to move forward with the program, we'll draft up some documentation for the board to approve to put it into
Okay,
effect.
and then we'll
David?
have public discussion at that time, right?
Could the document just be a simple temporary membership application rather than a big, long,
Oh, yeah,
page
yeah, I'm
contract?
not
I mean,
envisioning something,
I don't want to
something
get
elaborate.
too carried away here.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's okay with everybody else, I think it would, the simpler we make it, the better.
Okay, well, we all recognize this is hopefully a marketing tool for Sun and Lake, so we'll go from there. Jim, thank you. Okay, we have petitions and communications. Pardon me? I think we'll have public comment, Bill, when we get to the resolution of this, which is not today.
I was just going to offer a suggestion. Okay. I'll introduce it.
Okay, if it's quick.
that needs to come up now, I think.
Yeah, the purchasing resolution, did we make a motion and approve? We did not. No, he did, because we got that late, I called Tanya, sent her an email, said, hey, it's not in the packet, and then now I forgot it.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you,
what
Larry.
is that?
Thank you. The purchasing policy we just discussed
Yeah.
has got a resolution attached to it, and we never acted on the resolution.
I thought we had.
No, we
Okay, here. You got a copy of that, too.
I got one,
All right, we'll have to do this first.
Come back and vote on that, I think.
Okay, so that's,
The purchasing policy.
that's resolution 215-12-1157.
Right.
And we've already.
It has been voted on, but
Yep.
it was going to be amended to include a statement from Mr. Halbeck. Is that correct? You wanted a statement in there saying budgeted items do not
Yeah, we can do
constitute.
that, I guess, when we do the resolution, or, well, no, in the policy, yeah. That statement about budgeting you're talking about, yeah.
So we would need to amend the resolution to include
We have no
changes as
motion for
discussed.
that resolution on the floor?
No.
Are you saying we do not? Allison?
The resolution was on the floor and it was voted on. My concern is that there was changes that you wanted, so there needs to be some provision in that. Someone needs to reconsider that motion to amend that motion with
Okay,
the
that's-
changes as specified.
I thought we'd voted on it.
Yes, it was for affirmative votes, but it's for, as the resolution sits right now, and there are some changes that need to be added. So you don't need to list each change, but I think that there needs to be some sort of provision for, with the changes as specified.
Okay.
David, you want to frame that for us?
You talking to me?
No, I'm talking to our attorney.
Oh, no, just as she mentioned, yeah, someone needs to make a
Motion for
move to
amendment?
reconsider it.
Reconsider.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to amend a resolution 2015.
A motion to reconsider.
To reconsider
Okay, do I have a
the
second?
amendment of the resolution to include the wording that,
Yeah, we need to vote on reconsidering it first. So just a motion to reconsider, we'll need a second.
Larry, did you second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so now you make a motion to amend as changes as discussed.
okay, make a motion to amend
resolution.
the procedure to include the words, even if budgeted, budgeted items do not exempt from board approval in item D, page 3. In other words, it has to come back to the board to approve, even though it's budgeted. However, the words might work.
Need a second on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, board discussion. Public discussion. Back to the board. Allison?
Supervisor Halbig,
Yes?
Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Holbert,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes. Okay, we have no add-on items.
Correct? No,
And
no.
petitions and communications.
Yes, we have two.
Let's deal with the Ponce de Leon petition. Ton, you have any opening comments on that?
Yes, we received a petition with 88 signatures it's from the Preserve Owners Association, Board of Directors, and property owners. And they are requesting a sidewalk on Ponce de Leon Road from Nadina to Romano Streets.
Okay. And we have a representative.
Yes, I'm Diane Andrus, resident of the Preserve in Sun and Lake. We've been here since the year 2000, and as many of you probably know, I walk the street every day from Ponce down to the hospital, back around, and I'm very concerned that there is going to be someone killed on that street. The traffic there's very, very little police control as far as speeders. Traffic, the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. No one goes that speed. A couple years back, we had speed bumps put in. That hasn't really stopped it. And many, many times we've had cars passing each other with people on the road, children riding their bicycles to school, and there's several children from Miranda Homes that ride their bicycles every day to school. They also, many times in the morning when school starts, it's dark for those children to be riding the bicycles. Many parents take their children to school in their golf carts, and cars are passing them because they're out on the road. And we also have a lot of bicyclists, joggers. Many, many people use that road, and it's become very dangerous since Miranda Homes was built. Several years ago, probably 8 to 10 years ago, I had requested sidewalks. There was a state grant or some Department of Transportation funding that they said that was going to come through, and then the economy went belly up, I believe, in 2008, and the funding was canceled. Michael Wright, several years ago, put through another request for funding, and we do have funding supposedly from the state coming in 2017 for $71,000 for design and permitting, and then in fiscal year 2019-2020, there will be $216,000 put forth for construction of those sidewalks. My opinion, someone's going to get killed before then. And I went out, I'm the one that did the petition along with the lady from Miranda Homes, and I also have a few more signatures on here. I've got 97 of them, not only from walkers, but also from many of the drivers. And I would like the board to reconsider and talk about the funding that could be used to be put forth and get it before the state comes through, because they may go belly up again if the economy tanks.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. But what you're suggesting does not go to Miranda Homes, does it?
No, it's just down to the very first road of Miranda Homes, and from Nadina.
Oh, is it that far?
It's a half a mile from Nadina down to the very first road of Miranda Homes, and that's Romano Street.
Okay.
The state
So-
funding goes from Adrian to Nadina, so it is longer than.
Yeah, but
than
I
that.
tend to agree with Mrs. Andrus. The idea of state funding 4 years from now is really kind of iffy.
There's no guarantees on it.
Well, that's for sure. Gator, you want to come up, please? You did an estimate for this proposal, right?
I have those estimates here for that.
Right,
Are those pretty firm in your opinion?
It's a pretty good idea, yes, sir. I mean, there's still a lot of design to be done in.
That would be on the west.
Confirm it, but,
That would be on the west side of Ponce, right?
Could go really on either side, but yes, sir, I had it drawn up for either side. I mean, the price going down Ponce for the wet area would be about the same price on either side, so it really wouldn't matter which side we went down that side. At some point, we have to cross Ponce because the sidewalk at Nadina is on the western side, and the sidewalk up there around the Miranda area is on the eastern side. So at some point, we would cross over most likely, but yeah, those prices should be in the right ballpark.
Well, what are they?
Okay, all right. I'm just got to go back and review it myself. It's been a couple of weeks since I looked at it. To do that whole length, I have approximately $96,000 to extend the sidewalk to connect the two of them, go all the way from Adrienne all the way down to Nadina.
But
Gator, wasn't that just for materials alone when you talked about that the last time?
No, sir. That's taking into account that we have some fill material still ourselves that we can use for filling in the side of the right of way, and that's the work to do to install and to build that sidewalk.
I'm a little confused. You're talking about sidewalk partially on the east side and then on the west side?
Well, there is a sidewalk existing now on the east side of Ponce de Leon along the Miranda Homes area. There is a portion of sidewalk there. We were going to try to.
Where does that end?
It goes from almost to Romano and goes up to Torrega. And so it covers in front of about 3 or 4 houses there.
But the project that Mrs. Andrus is suggesting this petition for would that go as far north as the end of the other one?
Well, she's saying Romano Street, but it's just you're going to have one more lot to connect up to the existing, so we would want to tie into that other existing sidewalk, and that would take us all the way to Torrega then, with the existing sidewalk that's there if it's
Okay,
meets
but the sidewalk on the west side, that really is the key part, isn't it? From everybody coming out of the of your neighborhood. You're all on the west side of Ponce.
Yes, I believe. I'm not sure
Correct.
which side I'm on. I'm on the left side anyway, going towards 27, but,
Going toward 27, yeah, but everybody that's in here
yeah.
lives west of
And,
there.
and the
so-
sidewalk along the school comes all the way down to Nadina, along that same side. And then the golf course side is what it doesn't really matter to me. We just need a sidewalk because someone is going to get killed.
Right, and for that reason, that's why I had planned on putting the sidewalk on the western, the golf course side, all the way down to Nadine, to Savona, and then cross the road there near Savona, cross over Ponce, and possibly go, that way we're not impacting as many house yards also on the western side, and we would cross.
We could legally stripe that going across,
Correct.
couldn't we?
Correct. We would stripe that and try to put some kind of a traffic calming, most likely a stop sign or something there at Savona to somewhat use as a traffic calming and for making that crossing there.
Yeah, well, you've certainly done a lot of work on getting those signatures.
Well, I've been fighting this for 10 years with letters to the district, to the general manager, and also the Board of Supervisors. And I think it's just time that, we have sidewalks put in on the other side of Ponce going from the circle over towards Granada, but they've.
Well, I kind of share your uncertainty about any state funding on this, so I think we need to consider this from our own pockets, make sure that we get it done. Any further board comment?
Tanya, have you had any further conversation with the county on years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and I think I passed you along an email that where we were number one on the list, and we got somehow bumped down. And have you had any further comment with the county on moving us up in the pecking order on this situation?
Well, the county does, all they do is the application process for us. So I did have discussions with the county, but where I did have, I was able to talk to DOT yesterday regarding moving us up. There's not an option to move up into year 2016 at this point. And there is no other reimbursement program that can be provided to us if we go ahead and do this project. So if we do this project, it would have to come from our fund balance at this point.
Okay, that would be through a budget amendment.
And I believe that's exactly what happened. I think this project has been talked about.
Yes.
It was budgeted. The grant application was possibly approved by DOT, and then the economy fell, and I don't believe there was enough funding for this area to get a sidewalk, and that could have been maybe 6 years ago,
Yeah,
5.
I think it was around 2008, but I'm not real sure. I don't have
I don't
all the
have that
backup papers
history.
on that.
But the county did submit another application. It was approved, but unfortunately, it's not until 2019, 2020.
If we would do the project, does that eliminate us from getting funding for what we did versus funding for what we might do? See what I'm saying?
It doesn't affect our future funding for any future projects, different projects.
But would it-
For
That
sidewalks,
carries
but-
forward in this, she said.
But you won't see this money again. I mean, if you decide to pay for it yourself, the
What-
funding will go away.
Have we gotten anything out of the county lately?
Well, sidewalks, we got a huge sidewalk grant. But, I've been...
No. Have we received anything from the county lately? In the last year or 2 years?
Yeah, you received your tax notice.
Well, I mean, besides our tax notice, have we gotten any money out of the county at all in the last?
No, and that's been a constant...
2 years?
That's been a constant
Huh?
gripe. No, Rick, we haven't. And that's been a constant gripe. Well, I had to deal with a lot of grants when I was in the real world, and I'll tell you that Mrs. Andrews is entirely correct. I share her concern that this grant is ever going to come about. And we're 4 years out from implementation, and we've been pushed back before, the famous EMS situation. So I'd like to address it now.
Yeah, we just spent how much on Deer Run cart paths?
Yeah.
300 and some thousand.
Okay. It sounds like something we probably ought to do.
You're right.
Can we dust off? Maybe we can dust the numbers off a little bit and put together something. I don't know.
Well,
To me,
I think
it
we
might
should.
Not, might not.
Rick, what do you have an opinion?
I think we ought to put the sidewalk in and get it over with.
Okay, Larry?
This sidewalk is needed. We definitely don't want to get a kid involved and injured or
Well,
worse.
we've got the funds to do it, and I agree with you guys. I think we need to do it.
I'd like to see it reimbursed. I'd like to see somebody else fund it, but it's not happening.
That's not going to happen.
I would like to make one comment. I don't know if that grant money, if you have it, if it will still be out there, but could they not use that to put in sidewalks on Matanzas or one of the other streets that desperately need it as well?
They can't
or
use
something.
Well, we can
So,
certainly
I mean,
certainly
if it-
lobby for that.
Right,
I mean,
if
we
it's-
have the right to.
I wouldn't like to see it go
restructure that.
away if our sidewalks are put in on Ponce, but it'd be nice to be able to use it for something else.
Well, myself and county engineering have already identified the 2 areas in the district that need sidewalks, and that's the second area. Matanzas.
Was that part of the
Matanzas.
grant? Was that part of the grant petition?
It's not part of the grant. It would have to
Oh.
be completely separate. But we've identified 2 other areas in the district besides Ponce that are in need of a sidewalk. So we've already had those discussions.
Well, I certainly would
Well,
strike.
I would share that grant money if you can get my sidewalks put in, that's for sure.
Okay, well, you've certainly got a favorable reaction from the board, and I think we need to work on that, get it in, get it approved this budget year. We can do a budget amendment.
Do you
can't we?
want to discuss the final numbers for the sidewalk during the budget discussions, or would you like to do that prior to the budget discussions?
Prior, I mean, this
Prior to? Okay.
This lady has gone to all this trouble, not just this latest one, but in the past, I know we've had letters and so forth, and now we've got almost 100 signatures saying that we need this, and I think there's no question we have to listen to that neighborhood. So I would suggest that, Gator, we take steps to get it costed and bring it back, and we'll, I guess, consider it as a project, a budget amendment. Is that okay, guys?
Yes.
Did you say you needed fill?
There would be
I'm
some.
going to make a comment, nasty comment. I know where you can get some.
Yes, we certainly
Yeah.
know where you can get some. Okay, so I think we're going to move. Larry, do you want to have a comment? You want to come up?
Also
But,
Mike Hurley probably will make a comment too.
Okay, but I think you're on the way to this.
Larry Bertetto, good decision by the board. One thing we forgot. If we go back and look at the records, when Miranda Home came in, part of that deal was that sidewalks were to be put in. And somewhere along, not you guys, but somewhere along the line, that dropped, the ball got dropped.
Well, they took off. They left
No,
about.
but it happened it was
about 80 lots with no assessments.
Right.
They're long gone.
$2 million. No, I know you can't get anything then now, but when that project was originally put in, along with the shed that was put in there, that was ignored when we wrote the contract.
You're right. Mr. Hurley, are you speaking as
well,
director
I'm
of
wearing two
maintenance?
hats.
Pardon me?
I'm wearing two hats on this one, okay?
Okay.
I'm
Identify yourself, please.
As Mike Hurley, I live in the preserve. I'm on the preserve board. I'm definitely for it. And on the other end, I have done some research on the sidewalks with Gator, and I don't think it's going to cost us as much as we think, but it's going to be, a cost somewhere around $70,000. But it's definitely needed. I sat there one day and I counted 17 kids walking to school in that area. That's every morning. They're back and forth. We need something there, and we got to get it done. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we'll leave it that, Gator, this will be a priority costing item, structure the project, bring it back, form a resolution, discussion, as soon as we can. And that would be certainly no later than January. Can you do that?
I'll work with Ms.
Well,
Cannadale as soon as we can.
If we're just looking for cost estimates, I could bring to the board an estimate with a budget amendment that would allow us to move forward with the bid.
Okay. This is-
Okay.
Gator, it's a sidewalk, not a maintenance center. Okay? All right, thank you. Next item is the letter, I guess, from South Florida. Is that Tennille? Yes.
Tennille Drury Smith, Community Services Director. We've had a request for the South Florida State College Heartland Senior Games to use our racket club for their pickleball tournament. The dates would be March 12th, Saturday, March 12th, and Sunday, March 13th. And I personally am in favor of granting this to them because I think it would be great exposure for Sun and Lake from a promotional standpoint. Obviously, our facility is brand new, and they also have no problem with us using that as a way to promote. Like if we wanted to set up a tent with information during that time. There are usually between 40 and 60 participants that come from all over Central Florida.
Is that open registration?
Yes.
So our residents would have a chance to.
Yes.
Where are we on the the bathrooms for that area.
I'd like to discuss that at my report. Is that
Okay.
so? Okay.
So, any comment from the board?
I don't have a problem with it. Is this, do they charge for this, or is this profitable to the South Community College, or is not?
I would have to get back
Or
to
is it just a
you.
break-even thing for them?
I don't believe they do it as a moneymaker. I think they just do it as a, and we actually have hosted their bicycle event for several years. So this would be in addition to that, which we really aren't affected by very much.
So this is going to be free
Yes.
for them?
This would be
And
free.
no-
We
and
would
any
be
entry-
sponsoring the use of our facility.
Any entry fees, they don't charge entry fees for this?
Honestly, I would have to check into that. Sorry, I don't know the answer to that question.
Do you know the purpose of the tournament? I mean, is it for a charity or?
I know that the college does a lot. They have a lot of senior programs, and this just falls in line with one of the programs that they offer.
This would be the first, they don't, do they hold any of their events at our clubhouse? Do they have any, like Florida Hospital, they have several events, volunteer dinners and stuff like that. Does South Florida ever come to Sun and Lake for any events other than this, before this? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think it's because they have their own facilities to host those sort of events.
So if they have a banquet or an outside event or breakfast or something, they use their own oils? They don't go to any other restaurant or any country club or anything for any, I mean, reciprocation is what I think
Sure.
Dick's getting at. And, I mean, do you think it would bother our membership to give up their tennis courts in prime time, March the 12th and the 13th? I mean, they won't be able to use the court, basically, and during the time of this tournament.
2 days, right?
So,
Yeah, it's a Saturday and Sunday.
what's the temperature of the daily racquetball players relative to this?
According to our schedule, when we set up our schedule for court play, there's one group that would be affected on Saturday morning. The other group that plays Sunday afternoon, they start playing at 3 o'clock. So they're most likely going to be finished by then. I would hope that because the Saturday morning group is our advanced group, most likely these participants would actually be playing in the tournament.
Well, why don't we try it and see what happens? Rick?
Yeah.
And
whatever we can do to promote Sun and Lake.
Well, we're good.
Okay, and I just want to add, Mike Hurley just informed me that they did just hold a golf tournament here recently. But they own or they manage the Jacaranda. They have a culinary school that runs that, so that's why a lot of their events go to the Jacaranda versus coming
Okay, we're
to
good
us.
this time.
Okay,
Say yes.
and I'm just going to stay up here because
Because,
my community services report.
are we there? Yes, we are. Staff reports. You're up.
Thank you. This past weekend, we were in the Sebring Christmas Parade, which was a lot of fun. We based our float around the theme of our event that we held here Sunday. It's called The Best Hula Day Ever, and it was Grinch themed. And we were fortunate enough to have a gentleman who attended our trick or trot, and he does characters. So he contacted us and said, would you like a Grinch to come to your event? Well, I can honestly say that if anyone has seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey version, this gentleman would hold a candle to him. He was amazing. And we definitely made a presence at the Sebring Christmas Parade with him. And we also went, before the parade started, we took pictures along the route. So we have all those. It drew a lot of traffic to our Facebook page. So we got a lot more likes. And that's kind of our thought process. We're also hoping we're in contention for winning the contest that they do have for the parade. So we'll find out that next month. So
Is
it was
is that the extent of our Christmas activity other than our decorations?
no, we had our best hula day ever on Sunday, which was the Christmas event is a more intimate, I will say, versus trick or trot. We would never have that many people. We had about 150 attend, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We got several comments on Facebook about. It's probably one of the first times I've had people actually go on and post how much fun they had. So it was definitely a great event. And like I said, the Grinch definitely helped out with that. Going forward, we have the New Year's Eve fireworks that's scheduled, of course, in conjunction with the golf club New Year's Eve party. The Sun and Lake Community Garage Sale, we've started taking registrations on that, so that's coming along. We expect that we'll probably get a slew of participants right before the deadline, which is the last week in December. We've scheduled the new residents and visitors reception that we have annually for February 2nd at the Island View. We've also scheduled a pickleball tournament.
Excuse me, would you make sure the board is reminded of that event?
Sure.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Because I think we should be represented there.
Absolutely. The pickleball tournament, our annual pickleball tournament we're having on February 17th. And then our annual Dash and Die 5K and Easter Festival will be on March 26th in conjunction with Easter being on the 27th. So we're staying busy.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Neil. Any questions?
Nope. Tennille, your Christmas decorations look very, very nice.
Thank you. I think it was definitely a good idea to go with a professional company to lease, and we hope we can build on that in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Is there anything on golf? Do you have any more? If not, you do or you don't, Jim? Okay.
Jim Kurtzborn, General Manager, Sun and Lake Golf Club, Billy Casper Golf. Just of a synopsis of our performance to date. We have closed the month of October, which was a good month for the golf club. We are operating it. We had a $37,433 better than budget performance. A lot of that was funded by our F&B operation, which was actually $13,392 better than budget. David Bell's got our golf courses both in great condition.
Again, I think in terms of restaurant and golf, so you got 37,000 overall.
37,000
of which,
overall.
how much was the restaurant?
Restaurant was 13,392.
And the rest was golf revenue.
Yes, and savings, yes.
Okay.
And relative through October, we were running slightly behind in memberships and made up for that with our F&B operation and other savings. We have seen a bounce back effect of that in November, where we've cut that deficit year over year in half. And we do expect that to even out by the end of our fiscal year.
What is our membership situation?
Our membership situation, well, one of the things that's built into our membership is we actually give discounts as people age. So when someone becomes 80, their dues actually decrease, or when they become 85, their dues decrease. So basically, if our membership doesn't change from year to year, your revenue is going to fall relative to that. We did start out, we were 50 members down through October, and we've cut that number in half.
With new membership?
Yes. So we are bringing in new members. We have actually contacted all of the members that didn't renew. And as many of you are aware, a lot of the reasons are medical and other things that really are unrelated to any of our performance that could be changed. So it is incumbent on us to constantly get new members, and I think the draft that you've approved is a good step towards that. Because as a new home buyer, one of the things that I found out from my realtor was that it is a consensus, as you can see from our awards that we win from the newspaper, that we have the best golf facility in the county, but it appears that people buy their homes before they find that out, and then they end up being tied to the location that they bought their home in as a member. So if we can advertise this membership, which will make people look at Sun and Lake before they make their home purchase, I think that can be a very viable marketing tool to help us grow our district and our club.
I suspect we're going to get quite a boost from those golf fields that Hornick is building.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Inventory is required to get residents. They have to have a place to move into for us to grow. Beyond that, we're just working with our outside play, and most of all, I'm rooting for the Farmer's Almanac over the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service is predicting an El Nino winter, which would be wetter and colder, and the farmers are predicting a warmer and drier. So let's give the farmers a thumbs up and hope that's the case, because that'll be beneficial to our operation.
I'm with you on that.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board? David, you're
Yes,
up.
David Bell, Golf Course Superintendent. I just wanted to give a brief update on, we've been getting a lot of good feedback on the conditions of the golf courses. We are entering our winter months. The overseeding on Deer Run turned out very nice. The fairways on Turtle that we did not overseed I feel are in a lot better condition than they were last year going into the winter time. And I just contribute that to, not having to go through the transition and the Bermuda grass having a full season of being able to grow, and it's going to do nothing but continue to get better. This time of the year, we have seen some disease pressure on some of the greens. Justin and Robin have done a very good job of identifying it and catching it at an early stage, so we can make the necessary fungicide applications. We've already had one fungicide one thing we did add to our program this year that we had issues with last year were on the fairways on Turtle, was the leaf spot, the disease pressure that we had in the fairways. We've already made one fairway fungicide application. I feel like that has helped our conditions. We're scheduled for another one this next week, and then a third one in January. So overall, the conditions of the golf courses are very good. We've been trying to do some cleaning up on some of the landscaping. Y'all have seen that out there, and we're going to continue to try to improve, the overall detail of both the golf courses.
When do you plan to start the increase landscaping that we talked about that's in the budget for around the tee boxes and so forth? We're supposed to be upgrading.
Well, it's upgrading the detail. We may actually be downsizing in some of the size of some of the beds. Right now, we're just focusing on keeping what we have clean until we can get through the season. And then there's 4 or 5 key beds that we're going to try to focus on for the season. And then in the summertime, whenever things slow down, is whenever we'll do some of that transition.
Well, I'm really concerned about that. I want to see this followed through. That we had a big discussion on improving, particularly our number 1 and number 10 holes on both courses.
Okay.
So you're going to wait till the summer for that?
We were going to, I think, hire somebody a new person to kind of help with that. Is that still in?
We did increase our labor dollars. A lot of that is not necessarily hiring an individual person to focus on that area. It's just having more hours available to spend in those areas. So that's kind of what that's attributed to.
Rick?
One on Turtle, it looked like somebody drove across one of the greens.
On
Turtle
number
Run.
10 last weekend, we did have.
Was it 10?
I believe it was
No,
10.
it was
Well, 11, we had a mole.
9. Maybe it was number 9. It looks like somebody rode a dirt bike or something across that.
On number 11, there was a mole that went across the entire length of the green, right across the center of it.
And you haven't repaired it yet?
It's repaired. It's just that, you know, over this time of the season, whenever you're kind of in the non-growing season, it just takes a while for recovery.
Okay. Well, it didn't look any different in the last 3 weeks that I played that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you'll be able to see it for a while.
Okay. David, thank you. Jim, thank you. Tanya, we're in a situation now that we're beginning to see new growth in Sun and Lake, and it would be good if you start tracking that and make that available to the board on what permits are being pulled at the county level, and what new growth we're having, how many new houses, and we got Hornings development and so forth. It's been a long time. It'd be nice to hear something positive on that.
I can give you an update at the next meeting.
That just sparked my memory. One of the things that did get brought up, and I've talked with Tanya about it, and we're going to do some looking into it, but some of the forms that we've had, it's been so long since there's been any real development. Some of our forms are kind of outdated, and Mr. Hornick made the note that our driveway permit application form is 14 pages long. So we're going to see if we can cut that down as well.
Okay, anything to generate new growth, I guess. Do we have anything on code enforcement or security? We have that in writing.
do you have anything?
Well, we got the security guy here. I've got a question about the report.
You didn't get away, Mike.
Yeah. And I sent Tanya an email about this. I understand there was an incident in the, and I forget the date, where one of our security officers surprised, I guess, supposedly surprised
the district office, and yes.
Yeah, and had a gun pointed in his face for a good while.
About 1:30 in the morning. It was, he was in the office doing a report, and he heard a door slam. He walked out, and as he was checking a building, a sheriff come out, which was in the bathroom, startled him, and he pulled his gun, and he pulled the gun on him. Richard identified himself right away, and they figured it out. I contacted Tanya right away the next morning. Her and I talked about it. I contacted a supervisor from the sheriff's department to let him know what happened, and they've dealt with it.
We need to make sure that gets all the way to Susan Benton, because anytime somebody pulls a firearm, was the security officer dressed in his security garb and his hat and his
he had
badge
his shirt
and
on, his hat on,
everything?
And the part of the building was a little darker. He didn't turn our lights on one of them didn't turn the lights on in the hallway, so I get to startle them.
And it is very dark in that building when there's that hallway light is off.
Right.
It's very dark in there.
Right, exactly. I talked to Richard. He felt pretty confident after I talked to him about it, how it was handled.
Okay, but according to the report, if the report's accurate, the gun was pointed at this gentleman's, this security officer's face for a good while, even though he identified himself.
He had of course, if you have something pointed at you, it probably seems a lot longer than it actually was, but.
Yeah, well, it usually does.
Yeah. We've been really lucky with the sheriff's department. They've been great with us. I mean, anytime we need them, they're there, so.
Okay, thanks.
Like I say, I would check maybe to make sure that gets all the way to Susan Benton.
Okay, yeah, I would.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Mike, could you comment on the streetlight situation you mentioned to me?
I didn't, but I will. For all of Center Lakes, or you got a certain area?
No, all of Center Lake, a lot of lights up.
Well, we're in the process of having more put up, number one. And every shift, who's ever on security will report back to us that following morning. We will contact Duke Energy, and they give us 3 to 5 days that they'll fix it. They've been a little slow on that, so I did meet a rep from Duke. They gave us a supervisor's number, and if it's not fixed in 5 days, we will be calling them. They have been getting better, like the clubhouse had them out. I think Bill down by you, but right now, I think we're in the process of adding around 8 new streetlights, and it's basically out towards the front of Southern Lakes where it's dark.
Mike, I
Okay.
don't know if it was put in by the state or what, but I noticed this morning that the school lights with the flashing yellow light now also has a blue light off to the side of it, and it really makes that stand out.
Yeah, and the sheriff's department's been there like 2 or 3 mornings, and they've given a few tickets, so it does slow them down also there too, so, I know it's been better, but,
Okay. Okay, Mike, thank you. Stay on Duke, please. They're about as unresponsive as
oh, I know.
anybody we've got around.
Well, Tanya's been in contact with them a lot too, so at least with the both of us, we'll get them.
Okay.
But the rep that I met was really good. He lives in Avon Park, and he was telling me during the parade in Avon Park, he counted 7 streetlights out on Main Street. So I didn't feel too bad after, if they had 7 out on Main Street, so.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Tanya, General Manager's report?
No, me first. Me first.
Oh, I'm sorry. David, you're up. Yeah, General Counsel.
Yes, sir. Litigation report, there's not much more than, except for the first 2, Severino matter, of course, is still ongoing. There were lots of depositions that were scheduled. I didn't receive any notifications that any of them were canceled. Mr. Halbig, you were among that. You got to yours. So it's in that process. We've discussed they filed in a motion to amend the complaint a second time, and that's going, I believe, for hearing sometime in February in front of the new judge. So we'll see how that goes. Daughtery is was a foreclosure that was dismissed, not a Sun and Lake foreclosure, but a bank foreclosure, on which we had operation and maintenance assessments. It was dismissed, but they got the dismissal set aside, and so it's been set for trial in mid-February. So hopefully, if the bank retakes that, we'll be able to get the money out of the bank for our unpaid assessments. Foreclosure report, not much going on. Stuff is progressing. The one thing that we did find, got some money on is the Newmans. Their foreclosure was looming, and we reached a settlement agreement with their attorney. They made their first payment on time, second payment late, but their last payment is due here by the end of next week, a little bit before, I believe. So hopefully that'll be concluded, and they'll be back up to date.
I guess question for both of you. Where are we on obtaining, qualifications for labor attorney?
We've already advertised, and the requests for proposals are due December 18th
Okay.
to the district office. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Tanya, now you're up.
The district and the Florida Wildlife Commission are meeting in January to discuss the four-wheeler and vehicle traffic behind Avon Park Estates. As you know, most of the land to the north of the district is owned by the state of Florida. And these vehicles use that area. I've been using this area for over 40, 50 years as a cut-through. And we're going to meet with them to discuss the issues there. Second, district revenue assessment collections are up $75,000 in November 2015 versus November 2014. And currently, you brought up the restrooms at the tennis courts. We have finalized the drawings, and the permit has been submitted to Highlands County for that facility, and this is the storage facility and restrooms at the tennis courts. And we expect to advertise for bid in mid-January for that project.
Why did we have to submit that to the county?
It's the site plan, is the permit that I have in there right now.
Oh,
is
that's
the same
right.
site plan
We had
exemption.
to pull a building permit on that.
Right, so we got to get the county, the engineering site plan exemption before we could, to make sure we're going to be able to do that, make sure we don't have to do any other kind of site plan modifications. And so if I get that, then we'll be ready to go with it as what we have for right now. We're ready to go with it.
Yeah, I keep forgetting we're a creature of the county in that respect, so.
It's a 1,000 square foot building, right? 1,000 square feet. So it allows storage for the restaurant, if needed for the district, and 2 individual restrooms, 1 for women, 1 for men. That will be ADA compliant.
Okay.
The maintenance facility, we have finalized a design of the building based on the board's direction at a previous meeting. The preliminary and final permits still have to be submitted to Highlands County. Again, we're under the county for those designs, and we're working towards finalizing the final specifications for that project.
Is everything else in place?
Sir?
Is everything else in place?
It's moving well. I mean, I still need to get with a hire landscape architect and it's time now to bring them in with the site. I've moved a few things around here and there after working with staff, and we're kind of finalizing that layout on it, and I'll be ready to submit that to the county for the preliminary site plan review and concurrency clearance, get the clearances for that. And then I'll be bringing in the landscape architect, bring them in to design the landscape that's required by the county and to meet those requirements. And then we'll be ready to do the final site plan. Hopefully that'll streamline on through after getting the preliminary stuff done.
Are we through all the bureaucratic nonsense related to this? Any of the state agencies?
State agencies pretty much. The only state agency permit I need to get right now would be a DEP for a water line and for the fire line, but that's minor, not a big deal. And it's mostly just be the county. The county's the only one really that'll need to get permits on now, and then we'll be ready to go with it.
Good. Thanks, Gator.
The last item I have for my update is a Dollar General store. On December 1st, I met with county engineering staff to discuss one of the entrances to the Dollar General store. This entrance has been a concern of many of the residents in Sun and Lake. The driveway allows a vehicle to make a left into a lane that should not be accessible to do so. Many people have said it's a potential hazard, it's an accident waiting to happen. And I've had security, I had Mike Hurley and I, we've looked at that area, we've looked at the stop signs, we looked at the do not enter signs, and I'm proposing to you today an option that we do have. Tanglewood Boulevard, or Tanglewood Drive, I should say, is a district-owned and maintained road up until the entrance of Tanglewood. I believe the easement is 100 feet for Tanglewood Drive, and it does flow into the driveway area of Dollar General. So I provided to you a map with a drawing of it's a median directional triangle as a possibility to deter people from making that left. It doesn't prevent it, but it can help deter that.
Well, it pretty much prevents it, and it's something we ought to do. We've screwed around with this thing long enough.
It's a 6-inch high it's made of concrete, is that correct? And
It's a
it is an
$3,000
option.
estimate, right?
Approximately.
I haven't put very many of those in, but somewhere in that ballpark, yeah. We're talking
I would
somewhere in
guess
that
it could
neighborhood.
even be less, but that's something we need to do.
Well, it's only $3,000, but initially we didn't pay anything for this. It's a flawed design, so I don't mind spending the $3,000, but I don't like to spend the $3,000 on a flawed design. Would it be easier to close that entrance off?
No, you can't do that because you got major traffic coming in from 27 that uses the in portion of that.
Well, they can go in right here.
Oh, yeah, but that's not good.
Well, you mentioned this Tanglewood, that, here I go. But what kind of agreement do we have with Tanglewood on this road, if it's the district's road? Any at all?
Yeah, there was with Great Tech.
Ingress, egress.
No, there was just an agreement, I believe, with Great Tech
Not on Tanglewood
way
Drive.
back when. David, you probably have that agreement in your files.
The one that I recall is that 1996 agreement that's where it's basically Tana's talking about from 27 and to where that agreement starts is
Right.
what's ours.
It's pretty much ours, yeah.
Mhm.
So we can put this in without any interference from anybody if we want.
Correct.
I was talking about the road and the boulevard. Do they maintain that boulevard, Tanglewood?
Once it gets past this initial stretch that belongs to us, everything else after that belongs to them and they maintain.
Okay, how long is that stretch, you know?
Where the gate is.
Where the gate is.
Past where you're looking at.
Probably a quarter of a mile.
What's that?
It's up here, where the gate is.
Okay.
The entrance to Tanglewood. That's ours.
This is ours.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good idea to go ahead with this at $3,000 to $4,000. It, like Tanya said, they can still get out that way, but it shows that we have tried to block it, and it will eliminate the semis going in and out there from the Dollar General. I know Dollar General don't care if it's ever closed up at all, but this, I think, would make somebody's insurance policy definitely have to pay if they come out the wrong way there, because it's pretty obvious which way you have to go.
Well, I'm in favor of it. Rick? Rick?
We're talking about so that they can only go in that way?
Triangle there.
Just that little
Yellow.
triangle.
It's in yellow.
But the only way you can go out is the other way.
That's right.
And then they'll have to go around that.
Well, which is proper because you've got a divided artery there, and if they the way they've been going down the wrong way of the
They've been
of the road.
back down this way.
Yes.
Oh, I'm for it.
Okay. Tanya, you're
Okay.
set. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
I got a few questions. Code enforcement. We've been fooling around with that thing. Have you heard back from our consultant?
We have heard back, but he's waiting on me now to provide him additional information.
Okay, that's been going on and on, one of these dangling things, and I think a lot...
Well, our first meeting with him was October 31st, our initial consultation, so.
Yeah, but I mean, the
Yes.
code enforcement concern on a number of parties has been a long time thing.
I agree, yes.
So
We're moving forward with that.
Can we look forward to anything in January to report back?
It depends on Mr. Pritt's schedule. I don't know at this point. I'll know more at the next meeting.
And then Gator was going to develop, I think he's gone.
No, he's just heading for the bathroom.
I think Gator was looking into the drainage issue, which needs to be a foundation for, I think, a district-wide policy, how we're going to treat these driveways and culverts. Progress on that?
David and I are going to work together to draft a letter to the 7 individuals. So Gator has done his part. Now it's back on us to finalize that letter.
Okay. I think I heard that last meeting. EMS facility.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I requested a update on the transfer of land to Highlands County from the hospital, and it was still with the Florida hospital attorneys. So once that land is deeded, then Highlands County can continue through the process of constructing that facility.
So we're still fooling around with the final agreement?
No, I believe, I mean, we don't have any part as far as the deed, and that's between Highlands County and Florida Hospital.
Okay.
I mean, we've been working, Gator's been working behind the scenes with Swift Mud, but I believe, I mean, we're through that process. I mean, there's still some additional items to do,
We
but
cleared that?
I'm currently in the process of responding to Water Management District on a request for additional information they had on the permit. We have most of those items already taken care of. There's just a few minor things that we're working with. And so, but that's not really holding up the county from proceeding on it. For all potential purposes, led them to water, so waiting for them to take a drink. Yeah.
Where did we leave this transfer line from the one facility to the other sewage facility? You remember the discussion on that? Weren't we seriously thinking about going ahead with that?
Well, there was a number out there. I think somebody threw approximate cost of $150,000. We were talking about it in case we had to transfer from one sewer plant to another, and that would be a more viable option than building another plant or expanding the plant.
That's what I remember. Are we at that stage yet?
No, sir. We're still a ways out from
Okay.
needing anything on that. So that's not, I mean, it's on the horizon, but a long ways out still. So I haven't worked on that.
Well, that's good to hear. Okay. Thanks, Gator. Tanya, you done?
That's all I have, yes, sir.
Okay. Any unfinished business? Any new business?
None?
No committee reports?
Yes, we do have a committee report.
The Assessment Appeal Committee met on Wednesday, December 2nd at 9:00 a.m. in the Community Center. The meeting was attended by myself and committee members Jenny Cox, Supervisor Hulbert, and Mike Gilpin to hear 8 appeals. The committee's recommendations will be presented at the January 8th Board of Supervisors meetings.
Okay. Jenny, of course, is gone. So do we have a replacement?
They've already conducted the meeting, so the recommendation that we'll be bringing to the board, I mean, I can do that at the January 8th meeting.
Well, that's
And-
no
and we
problem,
can-
but we have to replace Jenny on that committee, right?
Well, the commit,
Yeah, that won't be till next year. The committee's closed, the appeal time period is ended, so nobody else can appeal. The committee's
All right,
met,
that's
so.
good. Okay, thank you. Public comments.
Tom Costi, resident. I would just like to suggest that the board give some consideration to including existing homes in this marketing program to attract new golf members. There's a large inventory of available homes that are for sale at all times in the district. They're advertised on the district website, and the realtors who are trying to sell those homes certainly would be able to use the tool of being able to offer the same advantage of a one-year free membership with the sale of a new home. Any additional new member to the golf course, whether it comes from the sale of an existing home or a new home, one's just as valuable as the other.
Tom, I believe that's in there.
Oh, is it?
it's in there, yes, sir.
So it does apply to existing home sales
Yeah,
as
as
well
long as a new buyer.
a new buyer of an existing home.
What we're restricting, we can't have somebody who's an existing resident.
I understand. It moves to a new
Yeah,
home.
yeah, but
Gotcha.
It's in there. You want me to read it to you, Tom?
Pardon me?
Want me to read it?
I can't hear you.
You want me to, it says, new homeowners is defined to anyone who builds, buys a new home, or buys a resale inside of Sunny Lake.
See, I hadn't seen that paperwork, but thank you.
Tom brings up a point, Tanya, about if we got that listed on our website, we've approved this now, should we include that membership situation as part of the advertising?
Advertising for the
Tom
website?
says we have these homes listed. So is that on our website?
No, it's not on our website.
We certainly should make this option available to realtors.
Absolutely, yes.
So they do that, okay. That's good.
Aaron Seward, 4611 Calatrava, Southern Lakes. I wanted to mention something to Attorney Schumacher. Are you you may or may not be familiar with Section 720, the Florida State Statute, replace 619, I believe. It'd be very helpful if you were familiar with that. It would help you here, and I know your law partners are familiar with it, and it would address a lot of things here if you're familiar with it. Okay? Just a comment. With all due respect, sir. I come down here to talk about on Calatrava Avenue. There's a regular swamp hole down in front of the houses. I've talked to the office. They sent down people who took the rake, kind of scratched the mud out. But done no good. Like say they've been there, that's about as far as that goes. I've talked to the board member, I've talked to, I guess, code enforcement come down, the head of security come down, and I don't want to say I only got excuses. We don't have the money, we have to hire an engineer. Well, the fact is, I think the sluice pipes, some of them are 85, probably to 95% plugged full. And the water sits in there from rain to rain, some places that wide and that deep. It's a mud hole, the water's right at the top of the sluice pipes, as you know. There's plenty of drainage down through there, although I've been told, well, the land's too level. No, land's not too level. We shoot the grade there and we got plenty of drainage. And I don't think nothing's been there, I understand, within 25 years on sluice pipes. We pay our fee, I thought, to get that done. And I want to question the board why we cannot get them pipes cleaned out so the water can run.
That's a good question.
Maybe I can make a suggestion, okay? You got a fire department here, right?
No,
You don't have no fire department?
and we use a volunteer fire department.
Well, all you do is take a fire hose and you can blow that right out of there and clean them sluices very easily, number one. Number two, there's only about 3 or 4 sluice pipes down there. If we clean them, I'll volunteer to help each owner dig down the ground between where the water flow. And I know down to the end there, a culvert, and they may go into a DI, diversion inlet, for the water to run. And I believe on one side of the road where the water crossroads is a little higher, you mentioned it to me, Dick, a little higher on the other side. Any of that dirt from all these pipes, we can fill that in to make that water flow around out. So it's a very little problem, and I don't want to make it sound like a big problem or cost a lot of money, because that's not true. I think we ought to get that done, and I'll help any way I can to help that get done, because we try to keep our place looking decent, and with that swamp hole or hog hole out front, it just spoils the whole thing, everything we do.
Well, we can address that. Have you noticed any collapsed culverts?
No, collapsed pipes? No, I haven't noticed any. If we blow them out, you'll know right quick for any collapse. What I see is the mud's built up over 25 years. You got the perforated pipes which collect the mud, and the water runs slow, so all the dirt kind of builds up in the pipe. And the water's sitting that deep, and the pipe is inch from the top or to the top, and it won't run with all you take a fire hose and blow them out, and I take care of the rest voluntarily. Won't cost no money, you don't need an engineer. Okay?
Okay, we'll address it.
When can I find out about that, if we're gonna do it or not?
How about next week?
Pardon me?
How about next week?
That's just splendid. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. My neighborhood, finally.
Patricia Gangemi, a resident of Sun and Lake. There's an area of Sun and Lake that has been neglected for quite some time, and I haven't heard that it's going to be addressed. I would like to see it addressed. It's at the area of Sun and Lake Boulevard and 27. Just as the entrance into our complex here, there are 3 palms, one of which has died, the front one. The stump is still there, and it's in need of some type of flowers or some type of bushes. But if we want people to come into Sun and Lake, it's really a deterrent to look at that and come in and say, well, this is supposed to be a great place to live. I think that has been this situation has been that way since at least 3 years. I would like to see that addressed and have some fauna put in there. Thank you.
Okay, good point. Tanya, can we do that? Larry, you're in the way.
Sorry about that. She's talking about in the Sun and Lake Boulevard?
Yeah, the very first palms is.
In the median, right?
Yeah, is it?
That's county's property.
No, we.
Sun and Lake, the median of Sun and Lake Boulevard, you're correct, yes. I have to address it. We have a minimal landscaping budget outside of the signage project, so there was no plans to do any beautification in that area.
Does the county?
This year's budget, but that's something we can put in a future budget.
But that property belongs to the county.
Yes, sir.
So does the palm trees, right?
It's county property, yes.
Yeah, we maintain it. We just paid to have all the palm trees trimmed, I think.
We
on the
did.
Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we maintain it. The county gives us a stipend for doing it.
We never got any money from the county.
If there's a dead tree, We've been taking out dead trees all along. If it's just a
Wait a
simple
minute.
thing as a dead tree.
Wait a minute. A couple meetings back, I asked if we got any money from the county for maintaining that.
We do
And-
not.
We do not.
We do not.
Oh, I thought we got
had
a
a
small.
$35,000 agreement.
No. We don't get any money from the county for maintaining it.
God, Wright said we,
I think it started that we got some money for a few years, but that disappeared many years ago, as I understood it.
well, let's look into that Palm situation. If it's a county thing, then let's,
Get the county to take care of it.
yeah.
If the county can put all those palm trees up on
But what I'm saying
on
is,
the boulevard up there in Avon Park, they can put some down Sun Lakes Boulevard.
I think that was a grant. Matter of fact, I sent
Yeah,
Julian,
well.
I sent Julian an email and told him I was driving my wife crazy. Please cut the ropes on those Sylvester palms so you don't kill them. And he sent me one back and told me to get the guy to do it, and they're off.
okay, but if we got a problem there, that's a good point, and we ought to address it, so we can work with the county, okay.
Rusty Greener resident. I have a couple of concerns and recommendations. First of all, we have the business manager that Tanya is suggesting that we hire. Has this been funded in the budget and everything? Has the funds been put aside for this?
Well, it's Administrative Services Director, and it's a budget item that is covered.
It is covered, okay. All right. You're talking about grants and so forth. I think that this should be part of that job description for that person to make sure that we take advantage of all local and state and federal grants, and that this should also be included in that person's job description. Since
Rusty,
Yes, sir.
let me respond to that. We used to address that pretty carefully, but when that 2008 recession hit, all bets were off, and we sort of let it go by the boards. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily be the responsibility of this administrative position, but you make an important point, and I guess it's up to Tanya, general manager, to place that responsibility with somebody in the office. So I think it should be
the reason why I say that,
resurrected.
Mr. Miller, is that if we can get these fundings for the beautification and so forth, that's less dollars out of our pocket.
No
And that could be a
question.
very, that position could be a very enhancing position for our community. So I think that maybe this ought to be considered. Okay?
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead.
The other thing is, since we have a new attorney representing us, I got a question. Where are our legal documents kept, and are they secure?
Which legal documents? I mean, are like the copies of the resolutions and stuff?
Yes.
We have copies at our law office.
Okay, and they're secured for your eyes only.
Well, for the office, I mean, it's for the office staff. It's not open to the general public.
Okay. My other concern is, we granted permission to the college to use our pickleball. I hope we're not setting any precedents for using other facilities that we have available here in Sun Lakes to other groups that may come along. So I hope you keep this in mind. My next item here that we have this morning, in Resolution 54, we had passed $198,000 to build or to buy a lawn turf, whatever, piece of equipment. What I was thinking is, why can't we just delay the purchasing of that equipment and use those funds, $198,000, to put into concrete work for the Ponce de Leon project and for the number one project that Tanya had alluded to put in sidewalks, and then buy this equipment at a later date. But I think this concrete for the safety of our children and for our citizens, I think that it should be a precedent there.
Well, first of all, Rusty, the golf equipment that you're talking about was thoroughly discussed piece by piece during our May, June, July budget process. So that is not a new item. It's simply, it's taken that amount of time to get through all this state stuff to buy that, and we're going to go ahead with that because that was budgeted and approved. Now, you heard the board respond to the request for the sidewalk. And I think you heard the board say, yes, we're going to go ahead with that. So we've got reserve funds, we've got latitude in the budget, so we're going to address that. That's not going to be lost.
Okay, I just want to make sure we address that.
We are.
I think it, to me, is more important than buying a piece of equipment as far as lives are concerned, but since you have the funding, I think that's an excellent idea. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Okay.
It's still morning. Bill Norcross, resident, Pebble Beach Drive. I'd like to comment on the one-year free golf membership discussion. I think it's a great idea. It's a good marketing ploy. I wish it was implemented a long time ago, especially when I built a house. And I'd just like you to quickly think about, years ago, they had a rental agreement here. And the member would, the renter would have a $1,600 membership. He was able to give the rentees a $24 golf privilege. Well, what the net result was, it was a $5 golf and $19 for a golf cart. So you guys were getting some money out of that rental agreement. What I'm just suggesting here is that I haven't seen the bullets on the free golf membership, but you would think that there's some thought would have to be as far as, is it a family membership? I don't know. I haven't seen the
Well, it
bullets
can
on
be
that.
it can be one of several. I mean, yes, it can be a family membership or it can be a single membership, depending on a buyer's circumstances.
You would just consider maybe a household.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, you'd have husband and wife, sure.
Yeah, well, I just want to make it clear because, you know, when I first got here, we had an initiation of $3,000, and my idea of getting a membership real quick was they were going to drop that initiation. So naturally, I took advantage of the dropped initiation. And I would just like to see if they have a free membership, they should pay at least something for the golf carts. Because we've invested a lot of money in those golf carts.
They are paying.
Wait a
They are
minute,
paying
wait
for
a
the
minute.
trail fee.
They have to buy the trail fee. They
they
get
have
the
to buy-
membership, but they have to pay for the trail fee.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Okay? Now, when I came here and bought my house, the builder bought the initiation fees and gave them to the homeowners. But I still had to pay my membership.
Right.
So I got away with not having to pay the initiation fee. Okay? Well, it wasn't 6 months later and they dropped the initiation fee.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So now we don't have that initiation fee, so we're trying to get people to buy memberships.
Right.
Okay?
I understand.
So, you know, we're doing everything we can, all right? So give us a chance to see if we can get this to implement and work. And if it works, great. All right?
I understand. Now, quick question. Honeck is building those 42, 44 units down there.
48
They are-
units.
They are condos.
They're
not homes.
they're-
So now,
They're golf villas, yeah. He advertises them as the golf villas, but
Villas.
pretty much like Hampton Woods, the same same concept.
Yeah, right. So I just, as I say, I haven't seen the bullets on on this, and it was a discussion. I just wanted to bring up a couple of points that we, as a member, other people who have paid memberships, kind of like question. So I think it's a great idea. It should have been implemented years ago, and I can't understand why it wasn't. Thank you anyhow, and I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Okay, back to the board. The board is silent.
Yes.
I want to add Bill's comment that we certainly wish everybody a happy holiday season, and we shall see you on January 8th. Well, we are as far as this meeting is. We're going to recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll go into the training workshop. Is that correct procedure?
We're not adjourning, we're just recessing for 5 minutes, then we'll do the workshop.
Yeah. So, thank you. Meeting is over.